Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Bruce here again. It's been a while since I did any posting, a couple of months. Been rather busy, spending far too much money on vinyl. This is a very expensive habit, turning out to be. Now I've amassed a lot of vinyl in the last few months, so much so that I cannot possibly show everything that I've purchased these last few months. So I'm going to stagger this over several postings. I think I have to, for brevity, clarity and everything else. So today what I've decided to do is to sort of focus on some online purchases which I made, as well as one or two bits from charity shops round and about. And I've actually been to a couple of second-hand record shops in the last few months, something I rarely do these days. I think those are possibly the first visits I've made since lockdown, so it's been some time. Anyway, I'm going to be comparing today pressings as well, showing you different labels, so bear with me. I just wanted to show that, you know, compare and contrast, etc. So let's get started anyway. The first vinyl which I'm going to show was slightly serendipitous. I think I was looking online, browsing the internet as one does, and I stumbled on something, and it sort of turned on a light bulb, if you like, and I thought, I didn't know I wanted that. So anyway, I indulged myself, and it transpired that the vinyl for sale was actually through a record shop. So what I did was I arranged for the shop owner to hold the vinyl, so I went down and collected it, all for very competitive prices. Yes, I paid a lot, but certainly not over the market rate for these. So let's have a look. These were down in Brighton, which is not so far from where I am now, and I got them round about Easter time. Anyway, the first one I'm going to show is actually one I've showed before on the channel. As I say, there's a reason for this. We're going to compare the labels, and I got the in fact what I call the Magic 3 from Fairport Convention. In 1969 they released 3 albums, all of them very good. The first being What We Did on Our Holidays, and this was, I believe, their second studio album. Let me hold up there so you can see the back of the sleeve. You'll see the differences in a moment compared to the other pressing which I bought. This is my old copy, and I've had it for about 30 years, and you can see it's on the Island, I don't know what they call that. Do they call it Midnight label? You can see it contrasts with the other side there, and obviously now that I've upgraded in many ways, this one will not be staying in the collection. I might pass it on as a gift, maybe sell it. Anyway, so that's the I think about the 4th pressing, that one would be, or 5th, of What We Did on Our Holidays. Here I had purchased the original. So there we are. You can see on the back of the sleeve you get this lovely Island logo, which I absolutely adore. And you get the Island logo also down there on the bottom left of the rear of the sleeve. This one is in absolutely fantastic shape. I would really call it near mint. It's seen very little play for its lifetime. And here we have the lovely pink eyeball label, the original. You can see it there with the old Witch Season logo on it, the Joe Boyd logo. This one is the rough, they call it the rough textured label. As I say, I got it for a very competitive price. Extremely happy to have that one in the collection. And as I say, I guess it is a Grail, but it wasn't sort of intended. It wasn't up there in my want list. The record, the last disc I'll show today, in fact, it was my sort of one of my top 3 to get. So I'm really, you know, chuffed to have that in the collection now. Moving on to Unhalf Bricking, their third album, also from '69. I showed this before on the channel. You can see up there, there's no logo. We'll see that Island logo appear again in just a moment. This is like a 4th or 5th pressing, I believe, this one. It's much later. It might even be the 6th. Perhaps someone can post you know, comments below and let me know. This is the sort of white Island label, and if you have a look there, you can see that the palm tree is in fact the negative space between looks like skyscrapers. It's quite clever. Anyway, so that's a much later pressing, probably mid-80s that, or even late 80s, of Unhalf Bricking, their third album. It's got a minor hit on there, Bob Dylan's If You Gotta Go, or Si Tu Dois Partir, as they call it, in a sort of Cajun style. I think they even got a Top of the Pops appearance out of that one. Here we have the second press. It's not the original. You can see the Island logo there appearing on the top right of the album sleeve. There's the rear, very similar, I think, the rear of the sleeve. And this one is on the Pink Eye Island label. Here, you can see that. As I say, I think that's a second press. Probably pressed in late '69, possibly very early 1970, that one. And in fantastic condition again. These all came from the same collector who'd taken them into the shop and evidently had you know, really looked after this stuff. You don't see this come up in this sort of condition at all. The shopkeeper I bought them from actually said, you know, he'd never seen a copy of the album I'm about to show so clean before. He said he's had it in many times, but never in this sort of nick. Here we have the third of the Magic 3, Legion Leaf, probably their most successful album. It's a gatefold. There we are, you can see that with all the notes inside. Looking at the sleeve, there's no real difference between this, which I believe is the second pressing, which is my old copy, and the original, which I'll show you in just a moment. That's the old, what they call Pink Rim Island label there, with the funny palm tree shaped writing on it. And this would probably be, I'd guess, around a 1971 reissue, or second press, whatever you want to call it. Here is the original. That's the first. You can see very little difference really between the two sleeves actually. Maybe they ran the same one with a new disc inside. Sometimes labels did that. But you can then see that it is the Pink Eye Island logo. So classic album. It often gets quoted as the best folk rock album of all time. Not sure if it is. I think What We Did on Our Holidays has its own charm. It's a very sort of variable album, the first one I showed. Kind of patchy. It's almost as though it's recorded by different bands. But, you know, very strong vocally. It's got some marvellous stuff on there. It's a real, yeah, a real sort of patchwork album. It's got its own charm, I feel. The fourth and last Fairport album I bought was a little bit on a whim. I had the original, I think this is about their 6th album, if I'm not mistaken, Babacom Lee. And this came out in 1972. This is probably about 3rd or maybe 4th press. From, I'm guessing, late 70s, very early 80s, on that sort of orangey palm tree label, Island. This is, as you can see, a single sleeve, just a single sleeve there. It does come, yes, with a lyric inner. There we have it, which is kind of stiff. But on a whim, as I say. I thought in for a penny, in for a pound, and he had it in. Also in very wonderful shape is the original press here, which, as you can see, is actually originally a gatefold, with this kind of pocket along here with inserts inside. It's got everything bar. I think they had a badge originally inserted in there. Let me show you some of these inserts. There's a kind of faux, whoops, we're losing stuff here, kind of overbalancing, there's so much of it. There's a faux newspaper article in there, and look, it's from Lloyd's Weekly News, dated 1907. I say faux, it's probably not entirely fake, because this album, concept album, probably the only one that they ever did, is based on a real life case of a man called John Lee, who lived in Babbacombe, Devon. And this booklet here, which I'm yet to read, but I have read his official biography of John Lee, was based on a murder case where he was purportedly wrongly accused of the murder of a lady that he was not really a housekeeper, he used to run errands for in Babbacombe, the village of Babbacombe, and sentenced to death for her murder. And apparently the scaffold mechanism failed 3 times. He was given a Queen's pardon, and his sentence was then commuted to sort of, not life in prison, but he got a good 15-20 years. Let's have a look at the label. There we have it. So that's the original Pink Rim Island label on that one. And yeah, as I was saying, he got out eventually, John Lee, and the world which he was discharged into was one that he relates in the book. It was a total alien world. I think he went in when it was the age of the horse and carriage. When he came out, of course, what did he see on the streets but cars everywhere, which must have been very disorienting to a man who was probably middle-aged by then. It's a very sad tale. You can see that the sleeve, the rear of the sleeve, is slightly different, but it's an interesting album. Is it a classic? I don't think so. Vocals, I think, really let that album down. Songwriting's pretty good, instrumentation better still, but it was never going to be the same without Sandy Denny or Ian Matthews, not in my view. Okay, another album which I had on my want list, it's another upgrade. I had a beat up old copy, especially the sleeve, it's pretty much trashed, was an album which I first heard about 30 years ago, and really it was an earworm. I think it's a terrific album, kind of underrated. It's another folk album. I'm not a great folkie, but of the sort of, if you like, 60s, 70s folk bands, these two here among my favourites. Terrific vocals here from Robin and Barry Dransfield, and this album's called Lord of All I Behold. It's on the Trailer label, which I think was an independent folk label. This is a first press in very, very nice shape. I got this one off Discogs. I was very happy to get it, and it's always nice when a seller sells a record as described rather than something that they've bumped up a few grades. But this really is near mint. So there it is. It's on the old Trailer red label. But they have wonderful voices. Obviously, as the name suggests, they're brothers, and they've got that kind of harmony, like the Everleys had. Just this ability to carry sound. Kate and Anna McGarrigle as well had that sort of wonderful harmony singing that you seem to get between siblings. A terrific album, absolutely terrific. So I was really happy to get that. Another one which I managed to bid for, it's been on my want list, this one, forever. I can't believe it's taken me this long to actually track down a decent copy of it. I've had it in my hand before in record shops in the past, and for one reason or another, probably more down to financial constraints, I haven't bought it. Very happy to bid on this and win on eBay. Caravan in the Land of Grey and Pink. Terrific album. And I think you'll agree that's a hell of a gatefold sleeve there. This one is actually I believe it's a second press on the DRAM label, DRAM Decca, and you can see it's red there. This is from 1971. I think the original press had a slightly tan label, but much the same logo. This has got some lovely stuff on it, like Golf Girl, the opening number, and they were, terrific musicians. Really catchy tunes, I feel, Caravan. Clever stuff, but not inaccessible, which is the complaint often, the charge levelled at prog, if you want to call it that. Anyway, I was very happy to get that one. Now, with the family, I went at Easter a few weeks ago. We were on the Isle of Wight, and I managed to purchase something on Discogs, and I thought, okay, hold it in the shop. I'll have a look in your shop when I get there, but it took a few weeks, one thing and another, to organise. But I was very happy to pick it up. It was really one of my top grails to find, so really happy to find that. As I was there, on a whim again, bought a few things in charity shops. None of it cost me more than £1. Arguably, it may not be worth more than that. But I stumbled on this. The girl on the test card. There we are. It's the old BBC trade test card image. Kind of iconic. If you're of that age, you have to be, I think, over at least the age of 40 to remember that one. It's what BBC used to play on their downtime before the days of breakfast television, etc., etc. 24-hour broadcasting as we have now. It's not great. This Pete Winslow, you can see he's got his bent horn there, a bit like Dizzy Gillespie. It's not. It's certainly nothing like Dizzy Gillespie. I'd put it more on the Herb Alpert sort of easy listening mariachi type. I think some of these titles suggest a sort of Latin feel. It's okay, essentially elevator music, but an interesting one to find. And it's on BBC. I'll quickly show you the label there. I won't get it out. There we are. BBC Records. That one is from 1973, I believe. But a real curio. Anyway, I thought I'd better pick it up. I might sell it on. We'll see. This was, again, I think £1. Morecambe and Wise. Definitely my first and definitely my last Morecambe and Wise album. Not a great fan. Interesting to see anyway. It's on the old HMV, His Master's Voice label there from, I think it's 64. Interestingly, it's everything you need to know about Morecambe and Wise, really. The repertoire is essentially what you can see some of these track listings here. It's what they just rehashed in the 1970s for their TV series. So they didn't have a great repertoire, but the basics are all here. Okay, a couple more. This one I was very happy to get as well. It's another original, not a valuable record in any way, but a nice one. I can see clearly now. It's the late great Johnny Nash. There we are. You can see some of the track listing there. I think he died a few years ago. He had a terrific voice. He was the man, well, he was a Texan, in fact. He was the man that took reggae, I think, to America, unless I'm mistaken. There we are. It's on the old CBS label. This one's from 72. Of course, it's got the massive hit I Can See Clearly, which I think was a #1 in America. Got to #2 maybe here. It's also got more questions. There are more questions than answers, which is a lovely song. Interestingly, there's a couple of Bob Marley on there. You can see Stir It Up there is the opening track. So as I say, a big influence of reggae on this one, but it's a nice LP. Lastly, but not leastly, from the shop I picked up this on the Isle of Wight, and thrilled to find it. This is Kevin Ayers, Shooting at the Moon. Kevin Ayres and the Whole World Band. You can see here a very young Mike Oldfield. I think he's probably about 17 when he made this album. You can see it's a flip back sleeve as well, which always designates an original pressing. This again, I seem to have hit a lucky streak here. Is in really tip-top condition. Very quiet pressing, this one. Very little background noise. It's near mint. It's near mint. It has seen, again, very little play. This is Ayres' it's his second album from 1970. It's kind of freak out album. Very odd, very angular, quite jazzy. It's got May I Puis, which he sang in French later. But terrific. So I'm really happy to get those records. I have more, so much more to show. There just isn't time. I've got a jazz hall, which I stumbled upon about 6 weeks ago. That will probably come on my next posting, or very near thereabouts anyway. So I hope you enjoyed that anyway. Look forward to your comments, and I shall see you again very soon. Bye.